Hey, it's Juan for PedalsAndEffects.com, and we are checking out a couple of Source Audio Sound Blocks 2. Not Sound Blocks 1, but Sound Blocks 2.
Sound Blocks 2, sturdier metal cases, a little bigger, a little just hunkier in a really good way. So this guy is the Stingray multi-filter, which is a lot of just modulation stuff with phasers, high pass, low pass, different peaks, and lots of different options to send those sounds through. This thing is really, really rad. And the other one is the Multiwave Distortion. This thing I actually had to kind of like take a while to wrap my head around it, because there's a few different things going on in this distortion pedal which makes it kind of like a weird, unique thing. The Multiwave, which as I understand it, basically it takes the signal, the input, and kind of analyzes all the frequencies and individually sends each frequency to a separate filter, effect, distortion thing, and then kind of recombines it all at the end. So it gives you like this really, really weird clarity to the distortion, but also being some weird high-end neat things going on in it. And then the other big deal about this is the fold back distortion section. And I guess there's a total of 22 different sounds you can get out of this. The fold back, basically, when you have a normal distortion, the input, when it peaks, it reaches a certain spot and it gets clipped, which creates the distortion sound. Whereas with fold back, once your input level starts to rise, the output rises with it, but then instead of getting clipped, it starts to decrease and then increases again and kind of like starts fighting with the input signal. So it creates this weird, it's almost like a synthy type thing. So there's some really, really interesting things coming out of that. But this thing is interesting because there's so much control over what you can do. There's a expression out, so you could set the expression to any one of these knobs. I can get a lot of weird like electronic sounds out of this thing, more kind of like percussive, drum, swoopy type things versus your average just like nerdy phaser sound. So let's check them out. Works really well with just kind of power chords and octaves. So here's that fold back distortion, which we were talking about, which has the kind of like competing input and output signals. I guess I should talk about the knobs too on here. Drive tone, you got your output, sustain, which puts a compressor before the distortion path. So let's see, then you got a noise gate. This is really rad. I'm been really into noise gate the past couple years because you can get just bizarre things out of them. And here's your little EQ over here. So if you wanted to adjust the bass, you'd set it on there and then come over here. Then when you find a setting you like, you just hold that button down. You have two different options for your settings. This normal distortion is coming out of the multi-band side, so it's going to have that kind of unique quality to it. But to me, definitely the octave sounds are kind of where it's really at with this guy. That's the Multiwave Distortion. Okay, so this is the Stingray multi-filter. Lots of knobs here. This kind of controls all the different kind of filters, single peak, multi-peak, high pass, and a low pass, and then your phasers down here. You got the depth, which is pretty cool because you could go down and up, which will kind of, when it's down, it has more of like a sucking sound. And when it's up, it's more of like a pushing. Let's see, you got your speed, your modulation source, all the different wave shapes, and then over here you have a whole bunch of stuff. You can mess with the frequency, the resonance, which will give you weird synthy things. You got your mix and volume right there, and then your drive and tone. So the presets that I have saved in this are definitely weird things. They're definitely not like guitar sounds. So that's with like heavily like, tweaked frequency and resonance stuff. When you have the expression pedal in there, you can set this to be any one of these knobs, which is really, really cool. And then they have some other things that you can set for expression stuff. So Source Audio, pretty cool stuff.